Hi and welcome to Khaleej Times. My name is Rube and you're listening to our podcast series on financial planning. Well, this episode is so relevant to each one of us, whether you're an investor or a non-investor. It is literally the starting point, the very basic of financial planning, because it all starts with managing your money well. And when I say money, it means what you earn and what you spend. Now, before I invite our expert today on the show, I just quickly want to remind our audiences that, this financial series is powered by IG. It's a platform where you can transact in over 16,000 financial markets or financial products. Okay, so for some great advice and insight, Toni, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to this one because I know that, this is so important and it's such a basic component of financial planning. So first up, what is the difference between managing money and saving money?
Again, it's a really good question. So managing money and saving money. Saving money is, I always say, is easy because you just put it aside and save the money. Managing money is all about understanding value for money. So for example, what I mean is actually if you've got a credit card or if you've got a loan or if you've got a mortgage, is that the best value for money you can get? So if you've got a mortgage and it's 6%, is there another one out there that's actually less? For 4% or 3%. And a lot of people don't understand that because they just buy the mortgage or buy the loan and that's it, they leave it there. Exactly, you've got to check out this regularly, not just, okay, I've done that, I've locked in the best price, because then next year you might be able to change it. I always say to my clients when I'm investing for them, okay, we'll start off here, this is a good return. So lately I've got a 7% return for one of my clients and I've seen another thing, okay, this is 9%. So I'll go over that 9% and I'll swap it over, because that is managing money, understanding that what you've got now is good and fits for today, but it might not be fitting for later, because obviously you've got to manage your money in a better, more practical and value for money way.
Okay, so do not give in to convenience. It's very important to start with your research. So you need to go out and research as to what makes or what gives you the maximum return on your investment, right? And then you're saying that regularly sort of, keep yourself updated.
Exactly. And the thing is, don't overspend. Do your research on that.
Yeah.
Don't go out and say, okay, I'm going to buy this now and then work out actually there's a better deal down the road, or I should have waited. So for example, for me, managing my money when I was buying a new car over here was waiting for different sales to come up, because I knew those sales were going to come up. So then that's when I'm going to get the best deal.
Yeah. Wow. How can one manage credit wisely?
So this is the important thing. Credit is really important to understand.
Okay.
If you get, for example, 20,000 dirhams a month, and you say, okay, I'm going to have a 10,000 credit card limit.
Okay.
That's the maximum you should have, by the way.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't mean, oh, I've got 20,000 and 10,000, that makes 30,000. No, what it means is I've got 20,000, I have to minus that 10,000 away from that 20,000 if that's what I'm spending. Yeah. Have that mentality, because if you have that mentality, then you won't overspend. And that means, okay, that's all I've got. And that is the way of managing credit in the best kind of way.
One question that I want to ask you is what does it mean when one says that, you should save for short term and you should invest for the long haul?
Yeah, so save for short term basically could be anything from a holiday to a property. But investing for long term, you should always invest for long term. So the property that you're buying is not for the short term, is it? You're not going, okay, after 5 years, done, I don't need it anymore. You're investing for the long term. You're wisely going out and seeking a good property that you can invest in for the long term, be it retirement, be it your kids' university costs. The same comes into play when you're talking about retirement. It's very easy when we're young, when we're 30 or 40, to go, okay, we're safe for now, and that's important. But we're not thinking about the future. It's really important to think about the future, invest for the future. And if you invest for the future, then you're always going to be in line with actually a good retirement or having funds in place for your kids' university.
Let's talk about wants a little bit. We all have a tendency to give in to our desires on a daily basis, and you have these big hoardings and billboards all across the UAE where, you're told, okay, this is the next best thing, in the market, and we all give into it the temptation to buy it. How can one be wise about it? And are there any strategies to sort of control those temptations?
Strategy I always say to my clients, and I always use myself, is give yourself 24 hours. Is that actually what I really want? Or is it just a quick kind of impulse buy that I'm going to regret the next day? Give yourself 24 hours and then go back to it. If you still want it, then if it's within that 30% budget, then that's not a problem. But remember that 30% of for example, if it's 20,000 dirhams, it's 72,000 dirhams a year. So when people go, but I've got all of this to pay for all of that, and that's why I don't want to save, because that extra 20%, 30% will give you 72,000 dirhams a year.
Wow, so which is 6,000 a month and 70,000.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of
So that's enough to enjoy the fruits of life.
And just imagine if you start investing it and you start leveraging or taking advantage of the compound interest on that money.
Exactly.
It's insane the kind
so
of money.
Still enjoy life. Enjoy life. Still go and enjoy your cinemas or your operas and things like that. We're not saying don't do that, but what we're saying is be clever. And the clever way is 50, 30, 20. Simple as that.
And also give yourself, like you said, give yourself 24 hours for the rational thinking to kick in. If you're still dreaming about it, then you know that you want it. But if you're not, and the rational thinking kicks in and kicks you in the butt,
exactly,
then you don't want it. All right. Okay, so when we're talking about expenditure, spending, how do you think that one can, plan a budget around it? And are there any rules, any apps, any Excel sheet that can help sort of plan the budget well?
Budgets are simple. So what you do is you get 50% of needs have to come first, without a shadow of doubt. These are needs that you have to pay. Where you live, you have to pay rent.
Yes.
Do you have light? You have to pay light. Electric.
Yes.
Do you want water? You have to pay water. These are the needs. Do you own a car? Do you have to pay petrol? All of these. So write down all of the things that you have to pay. This is your 50% of your budget. And this is how easy it is to make up a budget. And that list is one list. 30% you don't need to write anything down because that's your wants. So that's 30% of what you want. But you can also write down, for example, I'm a football season ticket holder, so I've got my wants in there. I love going to the cinema, and I always attribute certain amounts, so I know even on my wants what my budget is being spent on. And then 20% is automatically deducted. Tax yourself first. Make sure that you actually are paying yourself first.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. All right. Since we're talking about budgets, are there any apps? That
There's lots. I mean, Finsbury have got our own app, which we provide clients, and anybody who wants it, they download it on Apple, and basically that gives you a budget and gives you a really good thing to put in every time you spend. This is what I'm spending all my money. Also, what's actually good, I've got a couple of banks that I know that you can actually use your debit card, and at the end of the month, it gives you a pie chart of what you spent, which is again really, really good. Or there's lots of different budget apps. There's one called Fudget, for example, that again you can just download and then put all of your expenditure in. There are even apps where you can actually take pictures of the actual receipt and then it uploads onto the budget. One or two of them cost on those kind of ones about £2 or £3, but or the equivalent of £2 or £3, so about 10 or 15 dirhams, something like that.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money. Okay, perfect. But it's going to help you in any case keep a track of your expenses, right? And it's really important to do that. All right. So how do you think one can set limit for unbudgeted expenses?
You can't.
Temptations and desires and
if it's
emergencies.
Emergencies is important. So emergencies should be 3 to 6 months always. Of your expenditure anyway. That should be sitting there ready for an emergency if it comes up. Whether you lost your phone and your phone's going to cost you 3,000 dirham to buy a new one. If you haven't got any money in the cash in the account, what are you going to do? Not have a phone for the next few months. Those are the kind of things that you really always should have aside just in case the worst happens.
Okay. Again, this is all about managing money wisely, right? And we're talking primarily about, the way you spend, right? Don't give in to temptations. Take that 24-hour time period to really realize that whether you want it or you not want it. Anything else that, you think goes into be a little more mindful when it comes to spending?
Well, Spending is easy for us to do because we've made it so easy now. If you look at all of the Apple Pays on your phone, all of the credit cards, and you don't physically have the money. And again, people, what they tend to do with credit cards is don't look at their statements because they don't need to, because it's on the text, so I don't need to do it. So my advice would be always understand and look at your budget every month. If you look at your budget, sometimes you scare yourself, because remember, I'm not talking about the start of the month, I'm talking about the end of the month, and you've listed everything that you've paid for, and you're like, I spent 1,000 dirhams on coffee, something like that. And that's the kind of things that you should actually be thinking about. Okay, should I be going to buy an actual coffee mug and buy a coffee machine, which will taste just as good and I can actually work around that? Or is this the best I can do? It's all about value for money. For example, we've got loads of apps over here, loads of 50% and 2-for-1s. Okay, so for example, I love going to Vox Cinema. I know that there's certain credit cards and certain ways to get 2-for-1. So instead of paying that very high fee of 100 odd dirhams per ticket, you then do 2-for-1s. And it's just understanding about value for money every time you go out and spend money. This is hard-earned money that you've earned every single month. So you should be looking for the best deals that you can possibly get, so it's spent in the wise way.
You know, it's a little unfortunate, and I'm saying it because, you know, I have done it myself. I admit that, you know, we all sort of given into convenience, and we're all a little lazy to sort of, you know, be a little more mindful when it comes to managing money well. Like, for example, I know that I had the entertainer, say, for example, lying in my house forever, and I think I rarely ended up using it. Like, again, you know, buying tickets at the cinemas, you know, like you on a certain debit card or a certain credit card, you know that you can get 2+1. But again, when you're not careful about things like these, then you always end up spending more.
You can always sometimes double. For example, I've got Skywards points, I've got loads of different ADCB points, all of these different points that I accumulate to make sure that I actually work that money better. Make your money work really well for you. If you make your money work well for you, then you're onto a winner, because what will happen is actually you're not overspending for that. You're not overspending for it. I'll give you a point of Warner Brothers down in Abu Dhabi. Fantastic place to go. Most people are paying a ridiculous nearly 400 dirhams just to get in. What I did is actually I used a sensible option, and I actually stayed in a hotel overnight in Yas Island, which meant that they gave me free tickets to get in. So the hotel cost me 600 dirhams for the family, and we got free tickets to get into the park, which actually cost less than the park, and we got a hotel and a night stay in there. So it's all about understanding, managing your money. Do you want to go somewhere? Do you want to do something? Do you want to buy something? Fantastic. Not saying don't do it, but find the best way to purchase that. And then you will actually, save money and have a better experience, because you know you've actually done a lot better.
Now that you're talking, there's another exercise that is coming into my mind, which is you know, I think each one of us should sort of go back and see what are the things that we haven't used for the past 6 to 8 months. And sometimes, you know, we have this habit to hold on to everything because one day we may, you know, need them. But the truth is that no, if you haven't used it for the past 6 to 8 months, then they're redundant. The chances are that you'll never end up using it. So just declutter.
And there's the declutters actually over here that have made a business out of it, going around people's houses and actually decluttering for them. And that's the best way to do everything. And that will, it will strip everything, strip the fat out, I always say, of your life, and actually make the rest of it work a lot better for you.
So true. And I think it's a great exercise in terms of realizing that where you sort of overspend and what are the things that you can cut down on, right?
If you see you've got 500 shirts of the same brand that you never really wear, then you know there's a problem there. And that's the thing. And it's all about, for example, at home, my wife loves buying DVDs for the kids for the car. But they only use 2 DVDs. And there's a stack of about 20 DVDs that are still in the plastic. No, why are you buying more DVDs? That's telling you something that at the moment those kids aren't watching those. So either get them out of the plastic, make them watch them, or stop buying them and actually focus on something else.
You know what? Here's the thing. I can sit here smiling, but you know what? I'm guilty of it as well. So yeah, admit it. But very controversial question. Now that you've touched the point that your wife has basically bought these number of CDs for the boys and so on and so forth. Who do you think are better at saving money, men or women?
Without a doubt, women. I would love to say men, and being a man myself, I'd love to say if it's me against other people, then me. But women in general are much better and understand the importance of it better as well. So when I sit with a family, typically the wife will understand the importance of getting their kids to university and their retirement sorted now, and insurances in place, where the man is, well, we can do that tomorrow, or we can do that next week, or we can do that even worse next year. And the longer you leave it, the higher that hill to get to your goal will become.
Which is again an excellent point that you've made. I'm sure that a lot of women watching our show, listening to our show, are going to love it, right? And all the men need to listen up that yes, women are better when it comes to saving. But then, okay, to a more serious note, you said that please do not delay, postpone, or prolong when you say that, payoffs, right? Don't say that, okay, I'm going to do it the next month, especially when it comes to credit cards.
Yeah, so everything in life, if you delay, will become more expensive for you. Yeah. So for example, insurances, life insurances, critical illness insurances, these kind of things. If you take a year or 2 years, 3 years to not actually do it, it becomes more expensive. If you want a retirement goal, think of retirement as here, and you're walking down the road and it's quite easy, but I've left it for 5 years. So it gets a little bit, that treadmill has to go up a little bit. And then I've left it for another 5 years, that treadmill becomes even steeper and steeper and steeper till it gets to a point where you actually, I can't manage to get to my retirement goal. And then you end up working till 80 or 85.
But Tony, this happens so much, because there's always something more important than, say saving or start investing. So how can one, again, how can one sort of, let me just say this, that, fine-tune this kind of psychology and really get serious when it comes to managing the money well, and also, start seriously thinking about investing that money.
Come and see me. I will be blunt. I'm very blunt with my clients, and when my clients talk about, I want to get another property, or I want to buy this, I remind them of the simple thing is, you've employed me to make sure that you get to your goal, and I will make sure that they get to that goal. And the only way to do it is get their mentality right. And the mentality is simple. You have a goal in place. You need to hit that goal. I'm here to help you sit down. And what I would say is, if it's not me, then make sure you sit down with a financial professional, qualified financial professional, regularly. So I'm talking about every 3 months. Or to every 6 months to assess where you are. If you do that, then you will get the mentality of, I need to do this, I need to do this. Much like I attribute it to weight loss or training. So if you go and see a personal trainer, you will get to your goal. If you decide, actually, I don't need that personal trainer because I'm good on my own, typically you won't get to that goal. And this is what people forget. Sometimes we need that help. We need that hand holding to get through to reach our goals. And that's what a financial professional should be and is to help anybody get to that goal.
Reach there smarter and faster.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And I think it's very important also to add that sense of urgency to things. It's otherwise, you can always just go on delaying and postponing things, right? Because one thing is going to be always important than the other.
I think it's funny. At every end of every year, at the end of every year, I get a lot more phone calls from clients than I would at the start of the year. So if I'm sitting down at the start of the year, everybody's a bit blasé. Okay, I want to do this, but we do this in this month. And then towards the middle, it's, we don't need to do anything. And then at the end, they're like, oh my God, what have I actually done this year? Do I actually need to save? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So that's when panic sets in. I haven't saved enough. I haven't done enough. And it's all about making sure you have the right mentality to save enough to reach your goals. And if you do that and you have a financial professional giving you that help, then you should achieve your goals.
Just save wisely. I mean, first spend wisely, just save wisely.
And budget wisely first.
And budget wisely. That's the starting point,
yes.
To budget wisely. Precisely. Okay. We were just speaking off camera, and Tony, you told me that you also, you visit schools as well, where you sort of speak to kids and teenagers and so on and so forth, and, teach them the basics of money management, right? Which is very, very crucial. I think it should start early, in life. Kids need to understand, to be wise with money. I want to understand, what is the piece of advice you would give, say, teenagers out there?
Well, I split it down quite simply in 5 segments when I see them. I talk about budgets first. I talk about debt, which is very important. I talk about credit history, which again is very important, financial goals, and compounds. They need to know all of those things because that will help them. Budgets massively, because they have to understand that mummy and daddy won't be here all of the time to give them loads of money. So budgeting is important, but so is debt. So understanding what debt can do in the compound interest of having a credit card and not paying it off. Again, really, really important. As is financial goals, because they need to have financial goals to set their financial goals as this is where I want to be. That's really important. So all of these things embed with each other, need to be pushed towards. And I'm really passionate about going to schools. I go to a lot of schools, and it's something that is a passion of mine that I do, and I'll continue to do, because I think that's an important part of their moral education here.
Absolutely, I agree. So we've spoken about, teenagers, and you said that they need to understand, early in life, they need to understand what is a budget, start to budget things, and then start to understand debt in terms of compound interest, like you said. And of course, and then you said that they need to kind of just break down everything.
But this is what I teach them, and I teach them the obvious things about budgets, from as simple things of how much is a loaf of bread, or how much is a pint of milk, or if you get 11,000 dirhams a month, where does that money go? How much goes on here? How much goes on there? How much goes on there? And I actually give them a sheet to fill out of what they think. And it's really interesting about all the answers that they give and the feedback they give when I question why they've given.
And anything interesting that you
a lot of them, because they're over here, a lot of them, because they're over here, put a lot on rent, because again the rent's quite high over here, so a lot of them put a lot on rent. Some, because obviously what I'm talking about, put a lot on savings. I think that's because I'm there, and a lot tend to put a lot on either activities or food as well. And we have the opposite. Sometimes put nothing on food, and I'm like, well, you need to live and you need to eat. So one thing that I've commonly found is a lot of them don't know too much about budgeting. So it's all about, really important about understanding what a budget is and how it will help get to their financial goal at the end of it.
Okay, perfect. And you're saying the best way to do it is start listing down every single expenditure that you do or make on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I do it every day. Today, I've spent nothing. It's great so far. And tomorrow, and I carry on. And this is the thing. We write down everything. When you're on a diet, do you write down everything? Yes, a lot of you do, because you need to understand what's going in and what's going out. The same thing as your budget. What's coming in and what's going out.
Absolutely.
And I don't understand when people don't budget, when they're like, well, I've got this much money coming in and I'm sure I'll have enough at the end of the month. No, budget first.
Okay, perfect. So we can't emphasize on the importance of budget more. But what would you say to people, say, for example, in their 30s, someone who's comfortably now settled into a job, is doing well for themselves, and probably have a family? What would you say to people in their, say, 30s, early 40s?
Simple. Set a financial goal. If you haven't already got one in place, you should have. If you've got a family, you should have at least 2 financial goals. And those at least are retirement and your kids' education. So typically what you should be doing is saying, okay, how many years until my kid goes to university? Are they going to go to university? How much am I going to need? Again, understand that, so you understand how much you need to put aside. And the same for retirement. What kind of lifestyle do you want in retirement? Do you want a really good lifestyle where you can go on holidays and cruises, do what you want and not worry about money? That's the kind of I want, definitely. Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing that you should be thinking. But if you don't think that and paint that picture and what retirement looks like in your picture, even if you're in your 30s, then you're not going to get there, because you won't see the importance of that. I don't need to save for retirement because that's a long way away, and that's the biggest and fundamental mistake a lot of people make, because if you disregard retirement now, when you're early, when you're 30 or 40, when you're 50 or 60, that's going to be a lot harder to achieve.
Okay. So we've spoken about, how you should start early in life, for teenagers, how they can, start with budgeting and start with the simple rules of managing money.
Yeah.
People in their 30s and 40s with families, well settled in job and so on and so forth. What about people, who are already retired? So how can they manage money post-retirement?
That's interesting. Thank you for that question. It's the first time everybody forgets about when you retire. They you're okay now. It's really important. So when you're retirement, you'll have a lump sum of money typically. And what you then need to do is manage it wisely. Again, you need to budget. Everybody thinks you don't need to budget. You still need to budget even if you are retired. But then you have to work your money really, really well. So if you've got a pot of money and you're saying, I've got $1 million and I want that 50,000 a year.
Okay.
How long will that last you? That lasts you 20 years.
Yeah.
But if you invest that and you get 5% returns, then that 5% will take away and that 5% will come on. So your money will last forever. Yeah. And then that gives you an inheritance to pass down to your kids. So let's be completely honest. If you're at 65 when you retire, and you say, I don't need to invest it, I'll just live off that. One, you're going to have the problem of eroding against time, so inflation. And secondly, you're always going to have, I can only have 20 years of drawing at 5%. And at that 20 years, at 85, what are you going to do? Who's going to pay you the money? And you won't be employable at 85.
Absolutely.
So always invest it, make sure you're getting that returns, and that will give you a really nice income in retirement, and always budget.
Yeah,
even
always
if
budget.
Okay.
Yes, always. You know what? It's so deeply ingrained now in my system. I have to go home and start budgeting from today itself.
Definitely.
Which is so crucial, the starting point, the very basic of financial planning. Great. It was such a wonderful discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. It was so nice to have this discussion with you, and we have learned so much. It's so deeply ingrained in me to go home and start budgeting from today itself. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this show as much as I did. And keep logging on to KhaleejTimes.com, where we have, lined up 10 episodes of this podcast series on financial planning. So anything and everything that you're interested in on financial planning, you can find it here. You can browse, you can navigate, you can listen up. Also, you can tune into our social media pages. You can go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, watch the episode on YouTube. So any medium that you like. And before I close the show, just a quick reminder again that this podcast series is powered by IG. It's a platform where you can transact in over 16,000 financial markets or financial products. Thank you so much for watching, and do not miss out on our next podcast, which is going to be again on a very, very crucial, very relevant topic when it comes to financial planning. And I'm sure that you do not want to miss out on it if you want to become a smart investor. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Tony.